Welcome, everyone. We're going to get started here. The computer clock, anyhow, says it's 4 o'clock. So my name's Bob Flynn. I'm manager of IT Community Partnerships at UITS, and with me is Andy Hunsucker with the IT Training Group. And we're going to talk a little bit today about Teambox, specifically the process that we went through to choose Teambox. And Andy's going to get a little bit of a demo, and we'll get some more information about it. So the first thing, Teambox is not Box. They both have that little word in it, but they have nothing to do with each other at all. Okay, just want to get that out there since I'm also involved in the Box project. They have nothing to do with each other.
It's a very popular word in technology right now.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about the need we were trying to address with Teambox. Cross-functional team collaboration. I guess I will bring up a Box story. When we were implementing Box at IU, it was a project that needed a cross-functional team, and there wasn't good project management software for that. Those that have used MS Project know it's a good tool for project managers, but it is not a good tool for project teams. Small projects as well as large projects. Works everywhere we work, so on your mobile devices, Mac, PC, the whole bit. And easy to use. Anybody think MS Project's easy to use? If Greg Hannock's in the room, it doesn't count. All right. The process we went through. So first we had 23, whoa, we lost the 23 Dell projection systems. Yeah, hold on. Try and screw this together here so it doesn't happen again. I'll just not touch it. All right. So we had 23 professional staff from across UITS, all 6 of its divisions, including regional campuses, participating in this conversation about vetting and choosing a candidate. We drafted requirements, and I'll go into those in a little bit more detail in a moment. We collected the candidate solutions, so everybody went out and asked their friends, hey, what project management tool do you use? We did some online research. We talked to other vendors that we work with and asked them what they use. And the first cut we did were everything had to have a certain baseline must-have features. Then we had a set of nice-to-have features, and that was kind of the second cut as we whittled down the solutions. And the final cut was this something we could afford, and was it actually something that we could implement at IU? And then the final choice came down to the members of the team actually using them for a while to see if that was something that could be a workable solution. So the must-haves had to be cloud-based, so we could single source the information. Had to have feature parity across platforms. Accessible via mobile. Separate data from project goals, because then sometimes you have sensitive data that can't be showing up on the project status update page. Collaborate with folks both inside and outside of IU. An intuitive interface for novice PMs. Coming back to the easy to use part. And allow for team members to update the project as well as the project manager. So some of the nice-to-haves, be able to export things to your calendar, single sign-on integration, APIs that we can interface with. It's a tech organization. Everybody likes APIs. Integrate with current productivity tools. So be able to link to things like Box, which we use at IU. Again, this is the only link between the two projects. A graphical view of project and task status, so easy look quickly at what the status of the project is. Individualized view for various statuses, so a team member, supervisor, project manager, each having their own view. RSS feed, do people still use RSS? It showed up on there. It's one of those nostalgia things. So that you can export the status to some other system that you're using. Whoops. Ability to handle time zones and the ability to create project templates. So coming back to the ease of use, so you can set up some templates to get quick starts on projects. And then here are the different solutions that we looked at. I'm not going to name them all, but you might see your favorite tool of choice up there amongst the many: Basecamp, Asana, Podio, 10,000 feet, easy project. The only one that doesn't have its name on it is the one that says Know the Way, and that's Concerto. All right, so what about MS Project? Why wasn't that? I mean, we got that already, right? Why do we need to buy something new? You can do cross-functional team collaboration with that. Small projects, not so much. Integrate with current productivity tools, as long as they're Microsoft, yes. Oh, got some bullet points out of order here. Feature parity across platforms, not so much. Accessible via mobile, sorry. Cloud-based, kind of yes and no if you want to go out and get the 360 the Microsoft Project Server. Right, which is a big investment. Allow all team members to update and monitor the project. That is a double no. And intuitive interface for novice PMs. I thought about going off the edge of the slide there with the red X's, but you get the point. All right, so we'll come back to a little bit more information, but now I'm going to step away and let Andy do a little bit of demo here on Teambox. And we're doing all this off his snazzy new Surface tablet, which is interesting.
Yeah, so I'm going to apologize in advance because
I didn't pull this up. Didn't pull that off again.
I don't have a great resolution here with this projector. So this will be the eye test version of the demo. So the important thing to remember about Teambox is that it's structured into 3 sections, and it's really simple. You start at the project level. Okay, so you have a project, and you can see over here in the project section I have a bunch of bold items. Each one of those is a project. Inside each project there are task lists, and I can have as many of those as I want, and I can also have tasks inside each task list. Those are the 3 levels that you have access to in Teambox. Now these projects and the task list as well can be based off of templates. So if you have a standard process that you go through over and over and over again, you can set that up in a template and just create it right there. Now this particular project, the cloud-based project management tool project that I've got right here, is an actual project I set up to describe the process we went through to select this tool. Right up here, I'll point real quickly to the upper left corner here, the apps section. These are not really apps, they're more like sections of the site, but everyone loves the term apps now. So everything, even SharePoint 2013 now, everything is an app. Not great nomenclature, but we have a dashboard view that'll sort of show you all the tasks that you have upcoming. You'll notice that I have a bunch in red. Red's actually not a good color in this interface. We also have all tasks that'll just show you all the tasks that you've got. You can also filter these down a little bit. Recent activities, so you can see things that are coming up very quickly. They've also got a video conference tool, which I have not used yet, but it might be of interest. They have the Gantt chart view, which I'll show you a little more in detail here in a little bit. This is a very nice feature of this tool. We also have a calendar view. We also have a workload view, which can be very handy. It's very simplified, but what it does is it shows you all of the tasks that each individual user has to complete in your organization. So you can look and say, okay, this guy has 5 things due today, but he doesn't have anything to do after that. And then this other guy has nothing due today, but he has 100 things due next week. Maybe we can balance that out somehow. There's also a group chat feature where you can chat with your colleagues. I think we can already do that. That wasn't a killer feature for us. There's also the time tracking feature, which can be really interesting. Now, you have to use this from the start of a project. Okay, so everyone has to be disciplined about sort of clocking in and clocking out. But if you're trying to build metrics on how often somebody is doing a particular task or how long it's taking them, and they're disciplined, it won't do it automatically, they have to be disciplined about hitting the buttons, you can get some metrics about that stuff. So I'm going to walk you now through the projects view here. So I have a bunch of individual projects. Now it's important to note that we are sort of the next level up from a project is an organization. Now we initially had a single Indiana University organization and that was it. We have since negotiated with Teambox to get them to create individual organizations for different units in the university. Now, that's not necessarily automatic right now. We're still negotiating how many of those they're going to do for us and who is going to be there, but we have already started that process, and we do have some of those sort of separate organizations right now, which is definitely going to help an organization. Because as you can see here, Teambox told me I was a power user. And I've got maybe 15 projects here, and they're just in a list. Okay, they're just named in a list, and that's the extent of the organization I have for the projects I'm involved in, and that's with a very small test group working with this. Maybe, I don't know, 100 people right now working on it. That could get very unwieldy very quickly. So within the cloud-based project management tool, we have things like recent activity that'll show me things that have changed, and this is just in a general project view, I should say. And you can sort of see all of that happening. We also have conversations, which can be very useful. Now, this particular project doesn't have any conversations, but this is sort of like Email Plus in that all of the conversations you're having, I'm assuming, are directly related to this project. It will archive all of them, and will store them in sort of a thread-like fashion so you can actually come up with different topics. So if I wanted to say, okay, let's look at, new way to use this tool, and I can say, list your favorites. I can save it, but there's some other things I can do before that. So I can attach documents directly from my desktop. I can also connect from Google Docs, Dropbox, and Box. Okay? Now, when I connect to Box, it doesn't, now I have to sort of set up my connection beforehand, right? So I don't have to connect directly to Box and give them, the security certificate or whatever. I'm not a security expert. Our third member, Jacob, would be able to tell you all about that. I don't know anything about it. But what it does is it actually pulls in a link to the file. It does not pull in the file. So that file, you can continue updating it on Box, and it will still be it will be updating as you go through on Teambox. You can also add watchers. Now, this is an interesting feature. My team at IT Training hates this feature because what it does, it can be very useful for very small teams. But what it does is if I add somebody as a watcher, so Jacob's not here, so let's pick on him. So if I add Jacob as a watcher to this conversation, every single time somebody adds a comment to this, it will send him an email. Now that sounds kind of innocuous. I hear some people already understand how bad that is. But the problem with that is you've seen how many projects I have using this for 3 months with 100 people using this system. We're ready, we want all of UITs to be using this system. Maybe the entire university. And now every time somebody responds to a conversation that you're involved in, you get an email about that right at that moment. There have been days when I've had 50, 60 emails from Teambox. Because one of our favorite things to do at IT Training is to use this tool as a sort of like a tracker for note-taking during workshops. So we have this process we go through where we're trying out a new workshop that we have someone teach it, and then we talk about it. We used to sort of write down notes or do PDF notes, but that kind of kills the flow of the workshop. So what we started doing was we started using Teambox instead, and this is a very useful feature. So I can just have this right here open in the background, and I can just click to reply to conversation, type in a comment, hit enter. Page 20, this step is not the right step. But then at the end of the workshop, when you check your email, all of a sudden you have 100 emails. So you can turn that off. You can tell it not to watch you, but there is no digest functionality right now. I bet you that's something we'll have a discussion with them about. So that's conversations. And conversations, I think, one of my favorite features about Teambox. The other tool here is the task list. Now, this is a sort of fully realized project. I sat down and I walked through every single step. But projects don't have to start out like this. For instance, I could just create a new project. And the project name, could just be something simple like statewide planning. And I could enable time tracking. I'm not going to do that. My organization right now is Indiana University. If you are going to be a member of multiple organizations that we're going to be creating, there will be multiple things in that dropdown, and you'll have to make sure you're in the right one. But I can create the project. After a moment, it's done. I can invite people to the project. Just a note, if you are using this and you are sending people via email, make very, very sure you know exactly which email they used to create their account. We just went through a whole thing where people started changing their emails from whatever to iu.edu. Teambox is working on figuring out those email aliases, but we're not quite there yet. The better way to do it is to use the from this organization and click their name. Okay, that way you guarantee you're getting connected to them right there. It's very, very, very easy to add people twice or 3 times or 4 times. So be careful. Again, I will pick on Jacob because he's not here and he can't stop me. Where is he? There he is. Now, I have some permission settings down here. The permissions are very simple. You're either an admin or a participant. Admins can invite other people to the project. Participants cannot. That's it. Okay? I'm going to leave Jacob as an admin. You can also add the user to the organization so that they can create projects. Now, the trick to this is we have certain licensing restrictions. People in UITS, professional staff, you can add them all to the organization. People outside of UITS, you don't want to add them to the organization because we have a limit on users right now and that sort of thing. I'm sure Bob can cover that later on. So he doesn't need to be added to the organization. Also, add this user to the organization. I'm a Teambox admin, so I have that option. You probably will not have that option. So I'll just go ahead and invite him to the project. Invitation sent. I can close this. And now I can start a new task list. Now there's nothing in here right now. But I can start a new task list. Create slide deck. Start date, well, it's kind of on us right now. We better hurry up. It's due today. I could choose a template. Some groups have already been dealing with this. But we'll just go ahead and add that task list. Now, because I added a date, it will show up on the calendar. You don't have to add a date if you don't want to. Okay? So you can just skip right ahead and ignore those date features. So let me add a new task. So for the slide decks, we're going to have to open PowerPoint, I think. I can also add a description to the task. One other nice thing about this is there is an email associated with this project that you can email tasks directly to this project. So if somebody sends you an email and they say, hey, can you do this for me next week? If it says in your email, at least if it's going to sit in my email, I'm going to forget about it. So I have to put something somewhere to sort of remind me, either in my calendar or in Teambox or something like that. So what I can do is I can actually email that task. That I can forward that email directly to the task list, and it will create a new task, which is very handy. You can also assign people to it. Again, I'll just assign Jacob to it. Again, he's not here. We just save this, and we can create more stuff. We're going to have to create a bullet list, so on and so forth. So you can sort of continue on with all this stuff and, add tasks as you go. And your structure, again, you got the project, and then you get task lists, have as many of those as you want, and then each task list can have separate tasks.
So in essence, these are like subtasks of the create slide deck task.
Exactly. Now, if we go back to the cloud-based project management tool task list, you can see that there's sort of, create project proposal, need to discuss document, write project proposal, review project proposal, turn in project proposal. Now, I had the advantage of creating this after we'd already completed the project. It's a great way to do project management, guys, I gotta say. I highly recommend it. Wait till it's done and the deliverables are in, and then decide what the schedule is going to be. Get everything done on time. But you can see, week 1 meeting, week 2 task, week 3 task, evaluate project tool, administrative review. And these are the sort of things we went through to sort of get all this done. We also have things like notes, which, sort of similar to conversations, but more document-based. I personally have not used this feature really at all. But we also have files, things that you've uploaded to this. So my Box account is already linked, as you can see here. I could link Dropbox and Google Drive as well, but I haven't done that yet. And you can also sort of upload, files, and I could just click the Box folder here, the Box button, and link directly to Box. You also have access to your members here for each group. And, I could leave this project. However, if the last admin cannot leave a project, which Teambox will make you very familiar with, you'll see that message all over the place. The last admin cannot leave a project. And then settings here, you can change the name, the identifier here. You can make this simpler. The reason you'd want to make it simpler is because of this email address right here. Now, the way they do this is they have the name of the project. Now, the project name is probably going to be pretty descriptive. It's probably going to say exactly what is happening with the project. So this can get a little dicey. I imagine there will be some collisions if everyone was in the same organization. Hopefully, with people in different organizations, that will have taken care of itself. You can also archive the project. You could delete the project, but you don't have to. You can archive it so that it could be used later on. Let me show you one more thing here real quick, and then we'll take some questions. The Gantt View. The Gantt View is one of the big things that sold us on this tool, probably one of the top 5 things. Let me show you how nice the Gantt chart view looks. So I can, and this shows me for all my projects, so I can actually compare my different projects against each other and see how those are happening. So this is the cloud-based project management tool. Now you have to use dates. You have to have real dates in here. It won't show anything in this view if you've just got general stuff. But so I've got things like these red dots are individual dates, individual tasks that have to be completed. The blue lines are task lists that are created. So you can apply start and end dates to task lists as well as tasks. So that can be very worthwhile. And you've also got things like the various task lists are listed here on the left here, but so they're red because I set this up back in June when we were sort of talking about this and haven't updated those dates. They would be green if they were starting today. But I think that's all the time we have for the demo. Let's take some questions.
Can you take me back to the slide deck? That's my first question. Yes. Just start on 10.
It's switching.
Okay.
All right, so I will be out here sort of taking questions, but Bob will have a few things before that.
Right, a few clarifying statements in here. So even though the organization that Andy's referring to in here is Indiana University, of course, from the vendor's perspective, that's who we are, so that's what they name the organization. Right now, this is the purchase has been made by UITS for UITS. UITS will do its initial rollout. Teambox is getting ready to do a major UI upgrade, and we're waiting until that happens before we roll it out more broadly to UITS. We've negotiated with Teambox that any other units at the university that want to buy into Teambox can do so at the enterprise licensing rate that we've negotiated. So that scales out. And we are working on single sign-on integration, developing KB documentation, training materials, and best practices recommendations that, of course, will be available for everyone. So with that, we'll take any questions you may have. And we are online, so we're going to pass the microphone around, or if you shout it out, I can repeat the question.
I kind of have 3 questions. One, does the tool do good milestone? I'll do them in order. Does it have good milestone identification in there? Does it do resource and resource leveling? And does it do critical path identification?
I'm going to give all three of those to Andy, who has more experience with the tool itself. I have experience with the process.
So the first question...
Milestones.
See, the problem is I'm not a project management professional, so I don't know exactly what all those things mean. The second one, though, I know. Resource pools, sort of like determining, being able to say, okay, who... No, it does not have that. This is not a capital P, capital M project management tool. Okay, so this is not going to follow any of the Project Management Institute sort of things. This is, not to be crude about it, but it is a really, really, really great task list. So if you're looking for high-end project management sort of things that you got to follow your procedures. Now we're working on, again, some best practices to sort of match some of those abilities, but as far as the high-level project management things, I would guess it's not going to have those. Or you might be able to sort of get at a functionality that's similar to what you want, but not exactly what you want. And what was the third one?
Critical path identification.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
You probably didn't see it.
We did have some professional PMs on the committee choosing, and they may have chosen something that was a little bit more robust, but those sorts of features weren't on the must-have
Understood.
list.
The other question is, what do you know if the product view path, a web-based project management tool, was, I didn't see it up on the list, but was that one that was ever considered?
I would guess no.
I didn't see it on the list when I went back and made that slide.
And finally, we had this issue when you all started Box, as we already had been using Box, and all of a sudden there was this account meshing issue. We're already users of Teambox. How big a deal is that going to be if we've already used our @indiana.edu accounts with getting involved in your all site?
That shouldn't be a problem at all, because the way Teambox works is that it works based off of what projects you're attached to. So they should be able to pretty easily, we should just be able to add you to our organization, and then you're still attached to your old projects, and we can just attach you to a new project. So it should not be a problem. That one I know.
Right. Okay, you have questions back further? Work your way back.
If I belong to more than one project, will it give me a list of everything that I need to do on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday?
Yes, it will. You'll go into the calendar view, and it'll show you everything that you've got coming up. You can also set it up to send you reminders of, oh yeah, by the way, this is coming up, and you need to set it out.
You didn't show anything about reports. What about reporting or being able to print?
You can print out a project. You can sort of export a project to like a CSV, or there's some other arcane web formats that I'm not super familiar with that you can export things out to and then print that out. As far as reporting and like how far past the milestone did this sort of thing happen, that is not included in this tool.
Okay, Carol. Back. Okay.
I have another reporting type question. We've been using footprints to put some not quite projects in, but kind of like projects, kind of as a placeholder. And we need to be able to do statistics on it after the fact. So what kind of reporting is there that we could go in and get, number of times a particular project was done or a particular task was done?
I don't believe the tool has any way to do that, but when we were looking at this tool, one of the things that really sold us on it was the API and the capabilities of the API. And again, if Jacob were here, he could sort of describe this in detail, but what he told me at the time when we were looking at this was we can crack it open and really do whatever we want with it. So we could design, I'm assuming, some kind of API that you could go through and run your Teambox things through to pull the stats that you need, even though that's not part of the tool right now. But that's a whole other can of worms that we can't guarantee any of that.
Okay, Elizabeth in the back. Yeah, Jacob, I tried to get him to bring his 18-month-old, but he thought he might be a distraction. So he's home with the baby.
I'm comparing this to my current use of SharePoint for managing things that really I'm the only one who does for the most part, although other people on my team could access those pages. So I have a couple questions based on that comparison. One, does this happen to integrate with Outlook at all? Like, for instance, could you create a task in Teambox and have it show up in your Outlook tasks or, calendar or whatever? And the other would be, So there's the note capability, which I suppose would be the best place to just capture random pieces of information that you learn before you know what you're going to be doing and when. It looks like those are kind of separate places. Is it easy to look at the information and create tasks, or I don't know how much of that is my being this far away.
The first question is no. It does not directly connect to Outlook, but much like SharePoint, it's more of a Outlook to Teambox sort of thing. So you can send emails to Teambox and get that functionality, but Teambox to Outlook, not really. I think there's some ways around that. Again, Outlook functionality was a nice to have, not a must have. So to your second point, sorry, run me again what the second point was.
Well, to give you an example, say I'm looking at the on-course upgrade that's going to happen in December, and the first I hear about it, there's going to be an on-course upgrade that's going to happen in December, and I think it's going to include these things. That's all I know. I don't really know what I need to do about it yet. So I create a SharePoint page. I just capture in bullet points what I know so far, and leave that information to be fleshed out as it gets closer, and then later I might actually create that task list, and I'm right there, I'm looking at my page, it's all in one page, and I can look at those notes while I think about what my tasks are. And it looked to me like those were kind of like different places in the interface.
Yes, they are different places in the interface, but Teambox is actually pretty good about keeping the new task list and new task buttons present in the interface, so as you're looking at your notes, you could sort of copy and immediately hit the new task list button and go through some of that process within that window. And of course, you could have two browser windows open. Not ideal, but yes, those are totally different places. The notes is for individual sort of document sort of things, or one big long set of meeting notes or something like that. Yeah.
Okay, and we're going to come up here for another, and we're going to have to wrap up here soon. So hopefully we'll get you both in. We'll see how long. Lance, question.
My team works with a lot of outside UX clients. They're IU employees, but we do projects with them. Is it easy to add, IU employees, but to Teambox, but who are not a part of UX?
Yeah, literally, it's the one checkbox, and you have to add them to a specific project. They aren't going to be able to create new projects, and they aren't going to be able to add other people to that project. But you can add them to whatever project you want. Now, the trick is, if you have to do that every time. So every single project you do, you're going to have to add them to that individual project. There's no carryover there.
You don't add them to do organization, you add them to the project. Okay, we'll go last question over here, and then put up the email address there, teambox@iu.edu.
I have two. I think they're really short. One is just, can you prioritize tasks? So as you're assigning tasks to your team, can you say, this one must be done on Tuesday, and this one, time permitting, please do on Tuesday? And then also, as you complete tasks, do they roll off your task list? And is there a place to go to easily see what you've completed versus what's still open?
The first question, it's more of like a drag and drop functionality, but it's entirely based on the day that you say it's due. But there is no sort of soft deadline sort of functionality in Teambox. The second one, and I've already forgotten it. Just say real quick what it was. Complete a task, yes. What happens when you complete a task, you click a checkbox next to it, and it's not greatly designed because I have people on my team clicking the checkbox thinking it's going to give them a list of options, and it just completes the task. But what actually happens there is it completes the task, and then in the task list, there's a little button at the bottom that says completed tasks. So view completed tasks. So they actually stay with the project. It's just sort of built in right there. But they are still with the project. They're just marked as completed.
All right, well, thank you. We're sorry we don't have time for more questions, but please send them to that email address. They all go to Jacob. And we'll be happy to answer anything you have. Thanks so much.